We believe in getting people into good jobs, and I'm looking for one.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 breaking news stories of 2022.
I think most people think that's wrong. I think parents especially think that's wrong.
For this list, we're looking at defining news stories from the first half of 2022 that are sure to stick with us well beyond this year. Which news story shocked you the most in 2022? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. The inflation surge. 2022 saw more U.S. citizens leave home, be it to return to work, reunite with loved ones, or watch Top Gun: Maverick on the big screen.
Just want to manage expectations.
Unfortunately, going out came with the revelation that gas prices reached a national high of $5 per gallon on average.
According to a recent poll, a majority of drivers are making fewer grocery store trips. More than a third are driving slower to conserve fuel, and 1 in 5 working from home or carpooling.
The recent inflation surge doesn't end with the astronomical cost of gasoline. Between May 2021 and May 2022, housing prices rose 5.5%, food prices rose 11.9%, and energy prices rose 34.6% in the U.S.
The Federal Reserve is trying to control it with interest rate hikes, and we should expect to see another hike here soon, which could move the U.S. into a recession and in turn slow spending.
In June 2022, it was reported that world inflation rose 6.7%, 2 times the average from 2010 to 2020. Reasons for this surge can be attributed to growing consumer demand, higher production costs, and of course, the pandemic's effects.
There is no question that we still have work to do.
Number 9. The rise of Omicron. Speaking of COVID, certain conditions have improved since 2020, but that doesn't mean the pandemic is over.
We estimate that about 73% of cases now are Omicron, and that's up to 90% in some areas of the country.
The Omicron variant has been the most consistent reminder throughout 2022. First discovered in South Africa on November 24, 2021, Omicron became the main strain in the United States by late March 2022. While easier to spread than the Delta variant, some would argue that Omicron is at least less severe than its predecessors.
Scientists at the CDC watching the spread of this new strain are reportedly discussing 2 possible futures: a possible peak in cases after the holidays by as soon as mid-January, and another moderate rise later in the spring.
Being so contagious, though, Omicron has reportedly caused more deaths and hospitalizations than Delta in some places. Being fully vaccinated does help, but every time it appears COVID might be behind us, reality pulls us back in.
We don't want people to panic. We don't want this to disrupt their lives the way it has all of us over the last 2 to 2.5 years. But you have to remember, we're still dealing with an issue.
Summer 2022 has proven especially rough, with experts pointing to Omicron and its subvariants amid rising COVID cases.
In New York City, new cases are up more than 25% in the last 2 weeks. Officials recommending masking up indoors once again, with experts saying previous infection does not guarantee protection.
Number 8. Boris Johnson resigns.
And I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks.
Boris Johnson might not be the 21st century's most controversial politician. Between the Owen Paterson scandal and Partygate, though, Johnson's nearly 3 years as UK Prime Minister have been like his hairdo. Messy, to say the least. The sexual misconduct accusations involving Chris Pincher, who Johnson appointed, may have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
First, Boris Johnson tried denying he knew specific details.
Are you drowning in sleeves?
After 5 days, the story changed and he conceded he'd simply forgotten what he'd been told.
In July 2022, minutes after Johnson admitted that he knew about Pincher's misconduct allegations, fellow Conservatives Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid resigned. By July 7th, almost 60 members of Johnson's government resigned.
I have concluded that the problem starts at the top, and I believe that is not going to change. And that means that it is for those of us in a position who have responsibility to make that change.
Amid what's been described as a mutiny, Johnson announced his resignation after 2 days of refusing to step down. Johnson says that he won't endorse anybody for his replacement, fearing his support would, quote, damage their chances.
I will be leaving soon with my head held high.
Number 7. The death of Shinzo Abe.
The former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has died.
From one prime minister to another, Shinzo Abe held the position in Japan from 2006 to 2007 and again from 2012 to 2020, serving the office longer than anybody in the country's history. Although some would describe him as divisive, Abe's followers praised his foreign and economic policies.
Despite stepping down, Abe remained a major power broker both domestically and internationally, helping shape American foreign policy in the region for years.
They were deeply saddened and shocked on July 8, 2022, when the former prime minister was assassinated while speaking at a Liberal Democratic Party event. Shot from behind with an improvised firearm, Abe was transported via helicopter to a nearby hospital, where he was declared dead at the age of 67.
And the physician who treated him at that hospital has spoken over the last hour or so, and he said that when the former prime minister arrived at the hospital, he did not have a heartbeat.
Suspected shooter Tetsuya Yamagami claims that his mother went bankrupt after making significant donations to the Unification Church. Yamagami allegedly shot Abe under the impression that he would spread the church's impact. Number 6. Elon Musk buys Twitter. Then again, maybe not. Elon Musk is the driving force behind Tesla, SpaceX, and The Boring Company. In 2022, he almost added Twitter to that lineup.
In a statement released by the company, Mr. Musk said, "Free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy, and Twitter is the digital town square where matters vital to the future of humanity are debated."
Already having a large stake in the social media company, Musk made a $43 billion bid on April 14th. An extra billion was later added to the offer, which the board accepted on April 25th. Whereas some believed Musk would champion free speech, others argued that it would become even easier to spread hate, especially given some of Musk's past controversial tweets.
And I think the worry here is that one person will have way too much power over what it is people are saying on a platform as influential as Twitter.
Although the deal seemed inevitable, Musk pulled out on July 8th, citing the company's stance on spam bots.
It's not entirely clear whether Musk can unilaterally do this, whether he can actually back out. He's already said he would buy it, right?
Twitter plans to pursue legal action. As for Musk, there's always Mars.
What I really want to try to achieve here is to make Mars seem possible, make it seem as though it's something that we can do in our lifetimes, and that you can go.
Number 5, Robb Elementary School.
When are we going to do something?
The events that took place in Uvalde, Texas on May 24, 2022 made headlines for months afterwards. This was largely due to the ages of those involved, the delayed response by the police, and the number of lives lost.
The student victims, second graders, third graders, fourth graders, and also 2 teachers were killed.
In the aftermath, those in favor of stricter gun laws pointed out that few other countries have such high rates of gun violence, while opponents focused instead on mental health issues. According to the not-for-profit corporation the Gun Violence Archive, the Robb Elementary incident was roughly the 200th mass shooting in the United States since the beginning of 2022.
There are still so many questions. There's still this utter disbelief in the air that something like this would be happening.
In its wake, President Joe Biden signed into law the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. But while a majority of Americans support the legislation, most believe it will make little difference, with critics arguing that it doesn't go far enough.
We're not going to stay quiet and say, well done, Mr. Biden, Mr. President, when there's so much more to do.
Number 4, Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. On March 28, 2022, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Florida Parental Rights in Education Act, which went into effect on July 1st.
The policy has drawn national scrutiny from some, including Democrats, who say it marginalizes LGBTQ people. DeSantis and other lawmakers have said that parents, not teachers, should be in charge of discussing topics like sexual orientation and gender identity with their children.
Colloquially referred to as the Don't Say Gay bill, this controversial law prohibits the discussion of sexual orientation, gender identity, and other LGBTQ+ topics in public schools for grades kindergarten through 3.
and any instruction that is not age-appropriate or developmentally appropriate according to state standards.
In addition to student walkouts, the bill triggered protests from Disney employees, with the company eventually taking a stance against the law.
A slew of statements from Disney properties, ESPN, Hulu, Disney Plus, all reaffirming their commitment to LGBTQ+ rights.
This wasn't 2022's only attack on LGBTQ+ rights either. Earlier in the year, Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordered state agencies to regard medical treatment for trans youth as abuse. Number 3. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. From O.J. Simpson to Michael Jackson, we've endured some unpredictable celebrity court cases throughout the decades. Depp v. Heard ranks among the most notable due to its high-profile figures, serious subject matter, and several bizarre turns.
Dr. Kipper told me he sustained an injury on one of his fingers.
Objection, hearsay.
Wait, you asked the question.
Okay.
After weeks of testimony regarding alleged abuse on each side, the jury found Depp and Heard both liable. However, Depp came out on top, with Heard ordered to pay $10,350,000. $2 million in damages were awarded to Heard, who continues to fight the verdict.
This was a case all about words. Amber Heard's right to say she was a victim of domestic violence, an accusation that Johnny Depp says was simply a lie. He was the victim here, and the jury and much of the watching public has, after hearing it all, believed him.
Is Depp due for a comeback? Will mistreated men become a larger part of the Me Too conversation, or is the movement in jeopardy? Can we please stop talking about the bed turd? These are just some questions that the case has raised.
What did Ms. Heard say about the defecation in Mr. Depp's bed?
A horrible practical joke gone wrong.
Number 2, Roe v. Wade overturned. For nearly 50 years, Roe v. Wade guaranteed the legal right to terminate a pregnancy within the first 2 trimesters or up to fetal viability.
There's never been a case like this where settled law that has been affirmed and reaffirmed granted an important constitutional protection, indeed what has long been understood as a fundamental constitutional protection, and then is removed by the court.
In 2017, Neil M. Gorsuch recognized Roe v. Wade as the, quote, law of the land. In 2018, Brett Kavanaugh called Roe v. Wade a, quote, important precedent. In 2022, the Supreme Court decided 5-4 to overturn this ruling, with immediate consequences. As of writing, abortion is banned in 8 states, while 36 states have restrictions depending on the point in pregnancy.
In many states, these trigger laws will go immediately into effect, and in other states, there are laws that have been struck down by courts because they were inconsistent with Roe, and those decisions will no longer be enforceable. And so those laws will come back into effect in many instances, and in several other states.
The Supreme Court likely won't stop with Roe v. Wade, as Clarence Thomas aims to, quote, reconsider other landmark cases that could affect contraception and same-sex marriage.
So this is, in fact, a landmark ruling here. This is overturning nearly 50 years of precedent that was first established in Roe v. Wade and then affirmed in Casey, the Casey decision in 1992.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few other news stories that rocked the world in 2022. Will Smith slaps Chris Rock. So, should Rock host the Oscars in 2023? The North American drought continues. The U.S. West faces its worst dry spell in 1,200 years.
Our warming atmosphere has made this drought much worse, 40% worse, and it's likely to continue.
Netflix subscription drop. At least they still have Stranger Things, for now.
The streaming giant down 25% on Wall Street in after-hours trading after announcing its first quarterly subscriber loss in over a decade. Netflix saying more than 200,000 subscribers left the service in the first 3 months of the year.
January 6th hearings. The country's most infamous day of 2021 still haunts us in 2022.
I was already worked up, and so were most of the people there.
So as you started marching, did you think there was still a chance the election would be overturned?
Yeah, at that time I did.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. The Russian invasion of Ukraine. While the conflict between Russia and Ukraine can be traced back even further, tensions reached their boiling point in 2022. On February 24th, Russian President Vladimir Putin launched a, quote, special military operation, striking Ukraine's capital of Kyiv.
He said he'd been left with no choice because of the threat emanating from Ukraine. Within minutes, explosions were reported in numerous places, including the southern port cities of Odessa and Mariupol, as well as Kramatorsk and Kharkiv in the east, Dnipro in central Ukraine, and the capital, Kiev.
In Russia, journalists have been threatened for referring to the crisis as a war and invasion. There's no mistaking what Putin has done, however. Ukraine continues to fight, with President Volodymyr Zelensky being praised for his bravery and communication skills.
Do not panic. We are strong. We are ready for everything, and we will defeat everyone, because we are Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine.
With the invasion ongoing, Europe is suffering its largest refugee crisis since the 1940s.
The refugees are coming and coming. They are more and more and more. So every hour, that's 5,000 to 10,000 new people coming. Because
every hour, 5,000 to 10,000 new people are coming.
Yes.
Putin's actions have not only affected Europe, but the rest of the world as well. Circling back to our number 10 entry, the invasion has also increased inflation, leading to higher prices for wheat, corn, and oil.
The war in Ukraine was something that was unforeseen, and it has definitely put pressure on energy prices and also on food prices, because that part of the world, we've heard President Biden talk about it being sort of the wheat basket of the world. So certain prices, grains, prices for bread and such, are going up as well.